Area Flood Control Agency Board of Directors meeting this August 19th, 2021. Will the clerk please call roll and establish quorum?
Thank you. Director Conant?
Present.
Director Abdus? Director Jones?
Here.
Director Holloway? I can't hear you, Brian, but I can see you. Director Shaw?
Here.
Director Ashby?
Here.
Director Harris?
Holloway is here.
Thank you. Director Harris?
Here.
Director Jennings? Director Olmsted? Director Frost?
Actually, Olmsted, no, that was for Rich Desmond. Rich Desmond, I'm here.
Thank you. So noted. Director Kennedy?
Here.
Director Natoli? And Director Cerna?
Here.
We do have a quorum. Thank you.
Thank you, Lindy. Director Holloway, will you lead us in the pledge, please?
I would love to. And please join me in the salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Brian. Lindy, do you have any announcements?
Thank you. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This meeting is being recorded and will be aired on Metro Cable Channel 14 on Sunday, August 22nd at 9 a.m. and will also be available on SAFCA's website within 48 hours after the meeting. As a courtesy reminder, if you are not speaking, please leave your microphones on mute so that we have less excess noise. Thank you. And our first item is the Executive Director's Report.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Rick Johnson, Executive Director. Thank you all for being here. Lenny, if you go to the first slide there. If you remember, back in March, we informed you that our administrative officer retired. And so we've been without one for a few months, but I wanted to announce that Scott Hansen has accepted the position. Scott's been with SAFCA since 2016 as our senior accountant and auditor. And he's been acting in that position since March. So I just wanted to make you aware of that. Lindy, if you go to the next slide. So we talked about this a little in executive committee, but as far as the federal appropriations for FY22, which starts technically October 1st of 21, the House of Representatives has already passed our appropriation bill. That's the one that the Corps of Engineers gets their funding for, energy and water development. Included in it was almost $157 million for the work in the Natomas Basin. The Senate also passed their version of it out of their Appropriations Committee, and they had the same amount, almost $157 million in it for Natomas. So that's good news for us. There was no funding to start the Yola bypass study, as they considered that a new start, but I think I mentioned this in a couple of months ago, the $157 million, that's the most we've ever received in any annual appropriations bill, other than the 2018 when we had the emergency supplemental. So very well funded for Natomas in 22. Lindy, if you go to the next slide. So also the Senate moved forward with their, can you go hit that next slide there? There we go. They moved forward with the bipartisan infrastructure bill. It did have quite a bit of money in there for the Corps of Engineers. One that we're particularly interested in is there's $45 million for studies, including initiation of studies. And so in addition, there's $1.75 billion for construction of projects. We'll be working with the Corps. They have to put together a work plan 60 days after it's enacted. That's assuming it gets through the House okay and the president signs it. But we'll be working with the Corps to try to ensure that the YOLO comprehensive study is funded in that work plan and or in a work plan for FY22 funding. So we'll be working that real hard over the next few months to try to make sure we can get that started there. If you could jump to the next slide, Lindy. I just wanted to make you aware, last year, Corps completed construction on the Folsom Dam raise Dike 8. The American Society of Civil Engineers, the Sacramento section, awarded it their Outstanding Flood Management Project of the Year. They awarded it to Odin. Odin Construction submitted it as they did the construction on that. So congratulations on that. That was good to see some of our projects get recognized like that. Lindy, hit the next slide there. So I do want to talk about Natomas Reach A. That's on the map. That's the lower end of Natomas Basin along the Sacramento River up to where it comes into with the mouth of the American River. If you go to the next slide, the Corps had a bid opening for Reach A on Tuesday, and they received 4 bids ranging from about 113 million to a little over 155 million. The government estimate was 164.5 million. So that answered one of our concerns. We've been worried how the next few bids would come in, given some of the escalations we're seeing and all the work going in the construction community. But we got 4 good bids. Corps now has to evaluate them to make sure they were responsive and complete and don't have any errors, but they plan to award it in late September. So if you go to the next slide, so just explain it a little bit more. There we go. The bid included a base bid, which is the one that they'll get the contractor going on right away, and 3 options. The reason we ended up with 3 options is we don't have all the real estate yet for Reach A, and they can't award without the real estate, but they did put them in as options. And there's the reason they did it at 3 is to break it up into some of the areas that we're working on. We're waiting for some actions on some properties from the City of Sacramento. But what caused some of the issues too is they had some late design changes, which changed the real estate requirements. So that's allowing to give us a little more time to work with those property owners, and then if we have to go through any eminent domain proceedings, it gives us a few more months, not a lot, because those base bids are only good for a certain amount of time. So it gives a few more months, but the pressure is on to get through those bid openings. So that's really all I had on my ED report, and I'll take any questions if there's any.
Any questions from directors?
Doing on Matt coming through the chair. How are we doing, Rick, on our real estate purchases for the, we don't want to do eminent domain unless we have to, but I mean, does it look like we're doing okay on most of those or not?
Well, yeah, we've been bringing several of them to the board. We believe we're still on track on most of them, but there are a couple that we're a little concerned about, but we're still working it pretty hard. The Corps was good to work with us and put those in as options, though, so it allowed them to. What that did is allowed them to tie their money up so that it can't go elsewhere, but still give us the opportunity to work on the real estate there. And part of it, in our defense, was they changed the designs on us a little bit, so that hasn't helped either.
Any other questions for Rick? Don't see anybody. Lindy, did we have any public comments not on the agenda?
I have not received any, Chairman Harris.
Okay.
Hey,
so,
Jeff, this is Angelique. Can I ask Rick a question really quick?
Go
Sorry,
ahead.
I'm on the phone, so there's a slight delay. Hey, Rick, this is Angelique. First of all, great job on all of that, and really happy to hear the large allocation for Natomas. That's wonderful. Can you tell me that number again? Because I can't see the slide and I want to write it down.
Yeah, it was 156.915 million.
Okay. Thank you so much and great work.
Thanks.
Okay, I think that's got it. To the board members, I'd like to just say that number 9 on consent has been pulled so that we can reach an agreement on that one. And so on our consent, we'll be voting on items 2 through 8. So Linda, you want to announce?
Thank you. As Chairman Harris said, items 2 through 8 are in order, and staff recommends dropping consent matter 9 from the agenda.
Move to approve, Conant.
Second,
Shaw.
Holloway.
Okay, we have, was that a motion by Holloway and a second by Cyril Shaw?
I have a motion by Director Conant and a second by Director Shaw.
Okay, very good. And Brian, did you have a comment?
I'm just trying to second.
Okay. Are there any questions about consent? Anything anybody needs clarification on? If not, we have a motion and a second. And Levy, go ahead and call the roll on consent.
Director Conant,
Aye.
Director Abdis, Director Jones,
Aye.
Director Holloway,
Aye.
Director Shaw,
Aye.
Director Ashby, Director Ashby.
Yes, sorry, yes.
Thank you. Director Harris,
Aye.
Director Jennings, Director Desmond. Director Desmond, Director Frost,
Aye.
Director Kennedy,
Aye.
Director Natoli,
Aye.
Director Cerna.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes with a 10-member approval.
Thank you, Lindy.
Um,
Let me just make a comment here, Lindy. Going into numbers 10A and B in separate matters, we're going to separate them and take them as 2 separate items rather than a vote on both. So we will take 10A separately and 10B separately. Okay, Lindy, you can announce.
Thank you. Separate matters. Item 10 is a public hearing, resolutions of necessity, authorizing eminent domain actions to condemn real property interests for the Reach A component of Phase 4B of the American River Watershed Program, the Natomas Levy Improvement Project, over several Sacramento County Assessor parcel numbers. Item 10A is resolution number 2021-107, a fee interest acquisition over a portion of APN 274-0220-073, located at 2050 Garden Highway in Sacramento, California. Property owners Linda Susan Parr, trustee of the trust for the benefit of David Donald Parr under the D. Donald and Alice E. Parr Revocable Trust, dated February 3rd, 1993, and Linda Susan Parr, trustee of the Linda S. Parr Revocable Trust, dated January 4th, 2013, and David D. Parr. Item 10B is resolution number 2021-108, a temporary construction easement acquisition over a portion of APN 225-1020-009, located at El Centro Road in Sacramento, California, 95833. Property owner is WellCam 80 Venture. Pursuant to Section 1245240 of the California Code of Civil Procedure, this item requires a 2/3 or 9-member approval vote to pass.
Chair Harris,
Yeah.
this is Rick Johnson. I wanted to make sure all the board members were aware. Earlier today, Lindy sent out a letter to the board on item 10A, and I wanted to make sure everyone was aware of that in case they hadn't seen that yet, because we'll need to address that a little further today. So.
Yeah, okay, so moving on then into 10A, and once again, Lindy, we're going to take these separately. I wanted to make that clear that they're going to be handled as two separate items.
I understand.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, we got correspondence very late in the day, and it was rather lengthy, and it made allusions to aspects of the first resolution, the first RON item 10A, that raised the specter of litigation. So I'd like to ask Jeremy Goldberg to step into the conversation here and make suggestions about how to proceed, because the discussion of the RON, of course, doesn't have to do with valuation, and if legal concerns are raised, we need to hear from our counsel. Jeremy?
Thank you, Chair Harris. I have had a chance to review the substance of what we anticipate the comments to be. Written comments were provided earlier in the day, and a number of the items that were raised in the comments relate to ongoing litigation that SAFCA is engaged in on other properties, some of which are represented by the same attorney that will be presenting today on behalf of the PARs. And based on that, my recommendation would be to continue this item until we've had a chance to notice and convene a closed session so that we can discuss those items pertaining to the ongoing litigation.
Yeah, thank you, Jeremy. I definitely concur with that, but I believe we have a representative for the PARs here today. What I'd like to do then is, rather than have a presentation on the item, I'd like to open a public hearing now so that that representative can make their testimony into the record. And so if you are here, then please can you go ahead, the representative for the PARs.
Yes, good afternoon, Brian Manning on behalf of Linda Parr. So I'm clear. Are you continuing this item, or are we? Would you like me to make a presentation as if we weren't continuing the item, or I'm a little bit confused now that.
So Brian, let me state it this way. I've opened a public hearing. If you would like to make a statement into the record at this point, you're most welcome to. But yes, the intent is to move the item forward, to continue it so that we can convene a closed session so that the board can understand all the legal implications of the letter that you drafted to us. I know that some members have not had a chance to review it. I myself haven't as well, since it came so late in the day. If you would like to make a statement now, you're most welcome to.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I might as well. I'm all dressed up, so.
Wait, you're a barrister. Don't you always wear a tie?
It's not in the pandemic. I've got my shorts on underneath, actually, but. No, I will say something, and I appreciate the opportunity to do so. I've represented, our law firm has represented property owners in SAFCA related cases on dozens of occasions for decades, myself personally for over 10 years. And there are often times where we do have differences in views on legal issues and valuation issues, and that's perfectly okay, and I understand that. But this situation is the first time that I'm coming up to this board to provide a presentation, because I think that the issue is of such significance that I have to say something, and I do so because I do feel that this board does care about what they're doing. I know people on the board, and I've had experiences with them, and I firmly believe that everybody has the best interests of its citizenry in mind when it's doing the work necessary to bring flood control to the Natomas Basin and the Sacramento Valley. But there are certain actors that taint the situation. And what's happening to other property owners on this phase, but in particular, Ms. Parr is just too much, so I felt the need to say something. Now, my words are less important than what Ms. Parr herself has to say, so I'm going to let her address you, and then I'll be back to provide you with some of the more for a discussion on those more legal issues. But I wanted you to get her take on how the process has gone, and so that's kind of what the letter breaks out into, is two different topics. One is kind of the process of how we've gotten to this point with regard to transparency, communication, etc. And as I said in there, I do have an understanding of the difference of SAFCA's role in this phase versus past phases. So I can appreciate that, but I say this because you are the face of this project. The Corps is kind of dictating what's going on. And as you've heard today, late design changes. That's really out of your control, but those things do affect property owners, particularly someone who is the trustee for her brother's trust and her brother lives there. Those things have significant consequences. So I'd let her talk to be able to address you on how she feels about how this has gone. And then I'll come back and touch briefly on those legal issues. So again, I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you.
Okay, thanks, Brian. Ms. Parr?
Good afternoon, members of the board, and thank you for this opportunity. I am Linda Parr, owner and trustee of the real property that is the subject of this agenda item. I wanted to speak today to express my frustration and dismay over what has occurred during the past year and 3 quarters during the process of SAFCA's acquiring our property for the Levy Improvement Project. The initial meeting with SAFCA and its representatives regarding the Levy Improvement Project was held on November 4, 2019. At that meeting, John Bassett informed me that our entire parcel would be needed for the project and provided a schematic of the planned use for the parcel, which was a seepage berm. Laura Menendez, the right-of-way agent from Interwest Consulting Group, stated that an offer would be made in late December or early January 2020. The notice of intent to appraise arrived the following week, and the appraisers visited the property to gather information on December 10. On December 22nd, 2019, we met with representatives of OPC who explained the relocation assistance program and the benefits available to people who are forced to relocate under these circumstances. Several months passed with no correspondence from SAFCA or its agents. Inquiries to the right-of-way agent were met with, "We are still awaiting the appraisal." The offer to purchase real property for the full take of the parcel was received on April 22nd, 2020, fully 5 months after that initial meeting. Upon receipt of that offer, we engaged the services of an appraiser to help us prepare a response, something that was done at considerable expense. We received the preliminary analysis in August 2020, and I informed the right-of-way agent. The results of our appraisal indicated a property value significantly different than the purchase price being offered by SAFCA. After receipt of that appraisal, we made many attempts to engage SAFCA in good faith negotiations and requested early exchange of information, all in an attempt to move the purchase process forward. SAFCA was not willing to participate in negotiations or consider early exchange of information, only insisting that they could not negotiate without additional information from our appraisal. Given the experiences of other landowners in our area and the gap in valuations, I was reluctant to provide information that might jeopardize our position in any potential future litigation. My last attempt to move the process forward was an email of October 29, 2020. I was informed by the right-of-way agent on November 4 that my email had been forwarded to SAFCA's legal department. Despite several inquiries, I heard nothing from SAFCA in response to this email for over 4 months. Finally, on March 9, 2021, in response to yet another inquiry, I learned from the right-of-way agent that SAFCA was working with the Corps of Engineers, quote, on the design for levee improvements impacting your property, unquote. I asked for additional detail and none was provided. On April 20th, I sent yet another email to Ms. Menendez documenting the lack of response, describing the untenable nature of the circumstances that SAFCA had created, and asking for clarification of the design changes, planned next steps, and a definite time frame. She responded that she would forward this inquiry on to SAFCA. On April 28, 2021, just 8 days later, and a full year after the initial full take purchase offer, I received a new offer from SAFCA for a partial acquisition, a complete change in strategy. For 12 months, we'd been operating under the belief that we would need to vacate the property no later than April 30th, 2021. Without explanation or any communication from SAFCA, the full take offer of April 2020 was negated by a partial take offer in April 2021. I found this development disturbing for a number of reasons. I received no substantive correspondence from SAFCA or its representatives for 6 months, then was presented with a completely new offer, one that must be evaluated by an appraiser, again at considerable expense, before a counteroffer can be made. Given SAFCA's experience with the property acquisition process, I'm certain they are well aware of the length of time required to obtain appraisal information, yet here we are, the subject of a resolution of necessity item just 3.5 months after receipt of the second offer. I believe that the decision to modify the design must have been made some time ago, yet we received no information regarding the change, only a new offer. It undoubtedly took months to prepare the second offer. In fact, the appraisal included in the offer is as of March 5, 2021, indicating that the necessity for its completion was identified some time ago, yet SAFCA did not communicate the change in direction to us. As to the design itself, I am neither an engineer nor a hydrologist, but my family has owned this property since 1935, and I do know that the Natomas levees have been sampled and studied for decades. What soils information or other analysis could have come to light over the course of 12 months to warrant a change in design? If the decisions regarding design are truly made based upon science and soils composition, what made a seepage burn the correct solution in April 2020 and a cutoff wall the solution in April 2021? In summary, I believe that this entire transaction has been conducted without fairness or consideration for the situation that has been created for the property owner. On more than one occasion, SAFCA has taken months to provide information, then required a response from us in a matter of a few weeks. As I stated initially, I am extremely frustrated by the lack of communication and, in my opinion, the lack of willingness to engage in good faith negotiations, behaviors that have created an extremely difficult situation for me as a property owner and my family as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Parr. And Brian, I take it this will be your closing argument.
That's right. Well, we're coming back maybe, so I still got one more bite. But yeah, for purposes of this, yes, again, I do want to stress that we understand that this board has good intentions and everybody's very busy, but there's certain control aspects that you don't have. But as the face, you are the communicators, and that becomes very frustrating for property owners. And as a person who represents numerous property owners on these various projects, I would like to bring that to your attention now. And so to go back a little bit on, and well, I guess to touch on the second issue about the legal issues, I completely understand that valuation differences, it's not a topic of discussion at a resolution of necessity hearing. And that's not why I'm here. We're not here to say, hey, you should pay us X number of dollars. What I'm here for is because, as Ms. Parr just eloquently illustrated, there is what we see as a lack of good faith negotiations. And that is a topic for discussion at a resolution of necessity. And that's why I'm bringing this to your attention now. And so it does, if you haven't read the letter, again, part of the reasoning is this, it's kind of been rushed as we've gotten to this point. But I appreciate the willingness to take the time to review it, can continue the matter. I do, and I think this is, you know, on everybody's mind. So, but the long and short of it is this: the SAFCA's appraisers are being provided with an appraisal instruction that requires them to value these properties, or certain properties, as if the project does not exist and that nobody would ever fix these levees. Ever. Like forever, literally. And that this building moratorium would be, the building moratorium of 2008 would be in place forever. And the basis for that instruction is an unsupported position on the law. And we can debate the law, and I've debated the law with Condemnation Council many times. But in this particular situation, the instruction simply ignores a basic exception to a founding principle on which his instruction is based. But I think more importantly, think about it this way. Assuming that there is some issue with the legal instruction and the valuation issues, the fact of the matter is, Ms. Parr, like every other owner in the Natomas, is paying for any benefit that she receives from this project. She voted to say, I will pay my assessments to get this project over the finish line. It is a necessity. The assessment payments are a necessity for this project to come to life. And so she's paying those. But the instruction assumes that she's not. And so she's not getting the benefit of the payments that she's made or the project. But there's no offer to give the money back. So she's made those payments, but not getting the money back. Her property is zoned residential. It can allow for, as SAFCA's own appraiser recognizes, it can allow for up to 48 units. But that is being ignored because of this instruction. And I laid out in much more detail in the letter our bases for saying that the instruction cannot stand. I mean, and I stress that I've had disputes and we have had trials over these legal issues. But in this situation, it's such an egregious instruction that has no basis at all. I wanted the board to be aware of it. And I don't do that lightly, because I know there can be distinctions and differences in how attorneys view the law. But in this situation, I think it is so improper that you needed to be aware of it. And basically what you're saying to Ms. Parr is, I know you trusted us when we asked you to vote for our assessments so that these levees could be built. But now that it comes time to take your property, we're going to make you pay with your purse and your property, because we're not going to allow you to consider any project influence, despite the exception to the rule. And maybe more importantly, is this property is part of a specific plan. She has paid $400,000 to get this property for development, for assessments related to infrastructure on roads, sewers, etc. All of that, according to this appraisal based on an instruction, is for naught. The offer you're making is less than she's paid in assessments for development. I just don't think that it is risen to the level of good faith negotiations. And I ask you to please read the letter carefully and with a mind towards not necessarily valuation disputes, but more of where's the support for this? And I'm sure that you'll have discussions in closed session with counsel. And I just want to know where the support for it is and why he would tell his appraisers to ignore the the exception to the rule, and how it can be that somebody who's paying for their fair share should not receive the benefit of those payments that have been made for the last decade. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have on these issues.
So, Mr. Manning, thank you. You've raised a lot of issues for us to sort through. I'd also like to thank Ms. Parr for very clear testimony, and her attention to timelines and details is going to be very helpful for us to sort through these issues. You know, rather than get into a debate about these things at this time, what I'd like to do is close the public hearing and then entertain a motion for continuance. My commitment to you and Ms. Parr, Mr. Manning, is that we will take your testimony today, parse it out, get familiar with all the issues. We will have plenty to talk about to address all of your concerns, and then we will bring this item back because time is of the essence on the project, and so it will not be a lengthy time frame. But at the next hearing, when we have another public hearing on this issue and the RON item is entertained once again, you will, as you said, have another bite at the apple, and hopefully we will have answers to all of the concerns that you raised. So thank you very much for coming today.
Thank you. Thank you for the time and consideration. We greatly appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Chairman Harris, if I might just for the record clarify whether we are continuing this
Well,
to a date certain or uncertain. Our next board meeting date would be September 16th.
Fair enough, Lindy. So I would like to entertain a motion. Clearly, we need to have a closed session. I would suggest that we have a closed session before our next scheduled SAFCA meeting. It looks like Patrick, looks like you want to speak.
I move that we continue this. Are you suggesting that we meet for closed session prior to the next meeting?
That is my suggestion. It was tossed up that we could do that.
Then I would move that we continue this to the next meeting, as timing is the essence, as you said.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. So just to clarify, we're moving, we're continuing the resolution of necessity to our next SAFCA meeting in September. And in between, we'll have staff schedule a closed session so that we can parse out all these issues and be fully aware and apprised of what's come up on this item before the resolution of necessity comes before us again. So we have a motion and a second. Lindy, can you call roll on this? This is item 10A.
Thank you. Director Conant,
Aye.
Director Abdis, Director Jones,
Aye.
Director Holloway,
Aye.
Director Shaw,
Aye.
Director Ashby,
Yes.
Director Harris,
Aye.
Director Jennings, Director Desmond, Director Desmond, Director Frost,
Aye.
Director Kennedy,
Aye.
Director Natoli,
Aye.
Director Cernett.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes with 10-member approval.
Very good.
Next item is item 10B, resolution number 2021-018.
Yeah, and you've already read that into the record. Is Matt here to make a presentation on this one?
I believe so.
Matt, why don't you go ahead and make your presentation, and then we will open a separate public hearing on this one.
Thank you, Director Harris. Good afternoon, directors. Matt DeGroat, Real Estate Program Manager with SAFCA. And as was mentioned before, this resolution of necessity is for number 2021-108, and it is for Assessor's Parcel number 225-1020-009, and the property owner is Wellcam 80 Venture. So the property is located at the southern terminus of El Central Road in the Natomas Basin area of Sacramento County, and the acquisition of the property is required for the Sacramento River East Levee Reach A component, Phase 4B of the project. Next slide, Lindy. So again, here's a familiar map showing the project reaches in the Natomas Levee Improvement Project, and this is also in Reach A down at the bottom left-hand of the map. Next slide, Lindy, please. Thank you. And here is a map showing the location of the property in question at the southern terminus of El Central Road. And you can see that designated with the APN and the arrow there on the map. Thank you, Lindy. So here is attachment C to the staff report, which is a sketch showing the levee improvements along Reach A, which include installing an adjacent cutoff levee, cutoff walls, seepage berms, an operation and maintenance road, land side of the new levee, and the relocation of various utility infrastructures. Okay, next slide, Lindy. So here we have an image of the property in question. It is a temporary construction easement shown in red here, and the proposed acquisition is for a haul route. So the traffic will come down on Central Road, progress, through this proposed temporary construction easement area, and then move down adjacent to Interstate 80 down to the project site. So that is the particular impact here, which we are proposing to acquire. Next slide, Lindy. So attachments D through D3 of the staff report are the project description and necessity for the acquisition, the environmental compliance documents, and the considerations in selecting the mitigation sites and design analysis for the relocated irrigation and design canals. For this particular acquisition, on February 4th of 2021, SAFCA sent a letter to the property owners advising them that SAFCA was preparing an appraisal to acquire a temporary construction easement over a portion of the property to be used as a haul route. On May 7th of 2021, SAFCA provided a formal offer to purchase a temporary construction easement over a portion of the property, and it was for above the full fair market value that was determined by that appraisal. Attachment G to the staff report is a diary of discussions between SAFCA's right-of-way acquisition consultant and the owners, during which they discussed the potential effects of the project on the property and the requirement that a temporary construction easement would need to be acquired to support the project and the right-of-way acquisition process. So with this particular acquisition, after our initial contact with the property owner, they've been largely non-responsive with our attempts to follow up with that acquisition and the proposed offer. So we haven't really been able to get too much traction on it at this point and have not reached an agreement. So in order to continue on and meet our obligations to the Corps and try to keep the project on its timeline, it was at this point that we did mail on July 30th of 2021 a written notice to the owners of the property advising them that this board would hold a hearing at a regular board meeting today at this time, day and time, to consider the adoption of a resolution of necessity to acquire the temporary property rights by eminent domain. And that concludes the presentation, and I'll take any questions.
Okay, Matt, we'll hold off on the questions for now. I'd like to open the public hearing and ask our clerk, is the property owner here or a representative of the property owner or anybody who would like to make testimony into the record in this public hearing?
Chairman Harris, I have just checked my emails again and have not received a request to speak from.
Yes, I am on the phone. I am on the call.
Thank you.
Can you identify yourself, please?
Yes, my name is Eve Justice.
And are you the property owner or?
Yes, I am the property owner. And I have spoken to John Almazan at the, I'm not sure who he's with, Interwest, I believe.
Okay, well, thank you for attending, and the floor is yours to state into the public hearing, into the testimony, whatever you would like to say.
Okay, I did discuss with John that we are willing to cooperate and grant an easement, but we do not agree with the valuation. And so I know this hearing is not related to what the valuation is, but that's kind of where it stands. We're discussing, you know, what would be a proper valuation for the property, but we don't have an opposition to the easement per se.
Okay. Very good. So in other words, there's more negotiation to ensue.
Correct.
Okay, well, thank you for bringing that to our attention.
Yeah, we didn't mean to be non-responsive. We didn't know that your timeline was critical and that this would be coming up. So we don't really think you need to go through this whole procedure, but we just do need to come up with some type of compensation that we believe is fair.
Okay, thank you very much.
Chairman Harris, might I ask the speaker, typically I would receive a request to speak and I have not been able to do that. So would you mind please spelling your name so that I get it correct?
Yes, Eve, E-V-E, last name Justice, J-U-S-T-I-C-E.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Justice, for coming and stating your piece. I'll go ahead and close the public hearing. And what I'd like to do is have Jeremy Goldberg say a little bit about, now that you've heard from the property owner, what's the best course to pursue at this point?
Well, members, this is Jeremy Goldberg, Agency Counsel. You know, at this point, it's within the board's discretion. You can continue and move forward with the resolution of necessity. That will not preclude us from continuing aggressively to negotiate a voluntary acquisition. It will give us the ability to move forward with the filing of a condemnation action if it is necessary to do so. Our procedure is generally to continue negotiating even through filing of litigation. So passing the RON will not stop us from continuing to discuss price. But it is within your discretion if you want to give direction to staff to continue negotiations and bring this back. That is also available to you.
To make that determination, we have to understand the timeline and you know, what that means to the project moving forward. So Rick, can you give us an idea?
Yeah, John Bassett or Matt, perhaps you're on the line. Could you discuss the immediacy and the urgency of the need for the property?
Yeah, John, would you mind taking that question, filling that one? I think you probably have a greater knowledge of when exactly this property needs to come online for the Corps.
So John Bassett, Director of Engineering. As Rick indicated earlier in his report, the Corps is set to award the construction contract for Reach A September 25th of this year. They plan to give the contractor a notice to proceed sometime late October of this year. And then construction preparation will begin shortly after that, after the contractor submits all the his schedules and his traffic control plans and things of that sort. So this right away, again, which is the haul route, is one of 3 other properties along Interstate 80 that we have already acquired temporary rights to This is the last one to complete the haul route from where Interstate 80 crosses the Garden Highway to the north side, go over the bridges there, and then go out on the north side of Interstate 80 to El Centro Road. So we understand that the owner is trying to obtain her own appraisal. If we can work through some sort of right of entry with the owners to allow us to use the haul route while we continue to negotiate, we can do that. As Jeremy indicated, we could potentially continue this to September, similar to the prior document or resolution that was before the board. We can't go much past the September timeframe in order to get through a court process if we cannot come to terms with the owner, and we have to give the certify the right of way for the Corps of Engineers sometime just after the first of the year in January of 2022.
Okay, thank you, John. Just to clarify, this is a temporary construction easement, not a permanent acquisition, correct?
Yes, we would use it for a period of about 4 years.
4 years. Okay, that's I think an important piece of information.
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead. Open to comments from directors. Go ahead, Phil.
Thank you. I'd like to move the resolution of necessity and direct staff to continue negotiating.
Second. Kennedy.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Do we have any further discussion? I hear none. Lindy, I think that you know the directors have spoken about the path they'd like to pursue, so let's call roll.
Thank you, Director Conant.
Aye.
Director Abdus. Director Jones.
Aye.
Director Holloway.
Aye.
Director Shaw.
Aye.
Director Ashby.
Yes.
Director Harris.
Aye.
Director Jennings. Director Desmond. Director Frost.
Aye.
Director Kennedy.
Aye.
Director Natoli.
Aye.
Director Cernan.
Aye.
Motion passes with 10-member approval. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Director Cerna and Kennedy, for that. And that concludes our printed agenda. Are there any comments or questions from directors?
Only to say that there were a lot of moving parts in this meeting, and Mr. Chair, you did a great job.
Thank you, Patrick. Appreciate it.
Director Conant, I just was wondering, for the closed session, would it be appropriate to do it when we have our regular meeting with the oh gosh, help me out here. Our next
Executive Committee.
Yes.
There you go.
Can we
That's
do
under
that?
discussion, Matt.
That'd be inappropriate.
Well, what we're going to have to do is, you know, try to get everybody's schedules to collide so that we can have that, and it could be at the executive committee meeting. So,
Right.
You know, we just became aware of this late this afternoon, so we've got a little bit of hustling to do, but we're certainly going to look at that as a possibility.
Okay. I was just thinking it would be most people already have that on their calendar, so okay.
Good suggestion. Thank you. Any other comments, questions? Very good. Well, thank you all for attending today. Another interesting meeting at SAFCA, and we will call this meeting adjourned at 5 till 4.